It's great to see this kind of participation for some like Trina so early in the morning, or if you're Esther, it's also early in the morning. But anyway, I'm sorry, Esther. We are really we're just so grateful to have our City Council member Massene here to join us, and I'm going to turn this over to Pastor Michelle from the United Methodist Church to give a little opening for us.
Well, good morning, one and all, whether you're coming to us from sunny Hawaii or whether you're with your leprechaun hair ornaments, or whether you're sitting in Lake Oswego that's trying to warm up, we're glad you're here. I'm super excited about our speaker today. I've not been a part of the back planning, but so I get to hear it for the first time with you with fresh ears. So Massene, we're so happy you're here. And for whatever reason you've come to this place today, we hope that your bucket is going to be full when you leave. You're going to be inspired and challenged and all those great things that make life good and rich and meaningful. So thank you for being here. And I'm going to turn it back to my friend, Dorothy.
Okay, so basically we're trying to follow sort of a general standard format for these Zoom calls. We feel that the interaction and the networking part is really important. So we're going to start off after we've introduced Massene. He has a poem that he would like to share with us, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms for 15 minutes or so, and just think about what that means to us, and then when we come back, we'll share some of our thoughts, and then turn the floor over to Massene to hear his story in more detail. I'm going to give our Chief Technical Officer for the day the floor for a minute to just remind us, which we are really pretty good at now, all our Zoom protocols. So Christina, thank you.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Christina. If you don't know me, I do a lot of the background work, the emails, the setting up the Zoom, technology, all of that stuff. But super excited to welcome you all here. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to launch a poll. So this poll is we just want to know, how did you hear about the event? We use a lot of different communications, and it helps us if we can know which ones are most effective. So please fill out that poll. And while you're doing that, I'll just go over some quick Zoom etiquette. So it's okay if you want to have your video off. We love seeing your faces though. I know as a speaker, I love seeing faces when I'm talking. If you do choose to keep your video off, please make sure that you turn it on for our breakout rooms, so it's not just a bunch of empty screens in there. We really find that breakout rooms have been really nice and helpful for participants, so try and keep your video on there. It looks like everyone is muted, which is great. If you are not, feel free to mute yourself. You can unmute if you have a question or a comment. Feel free to also put those in the chat, communicate with each other there. I think that is about it. I'm going to give it one more minute in the poll. And while that's still up, I'm going to introduce Cheryl Zimmerman. So Cheryl is the newest member of our planning team for our Interfaith group, and I'm going to let her introduce our featured speaker.
I had to unmute myself first. So it's a great pleasure and an honor to introduce to you this morning our newest Lake Oswego City Councilor, Massene Mboup. Massene has an incredible journey and perspective to share with us today. Born and raised in Senegal, the middle child of 10 siblings, his family lived in a village in which TVs and refrigerators were luxuries owned only by the very wealthy. He had long walks to and from school and learned early in life the value of hard work and education. Massene has a master's degree in education from the University of Dakar in Senegal and is in the final stages of earning his doctoral degree in education at PSU. Massene moved from Senegal to Portland 20 years ago to teach French. He taught for 13 years in a Southwest Portland school. And when it closed in 2011, he and Massene and his wife, Patricia, decided to move to Lake Oswego. They opened a private nonprofit French immersion school, the International Leadership Academy, of which Massene is executive director. The school is located in the heart of Lake Oswego in Lake Grove on Boones Ferry Road in the Hope Community Church. Says Massene, I fell in love with this city for its dedication to children and education, its beautiful parks, and its strong sense of community and civic engagement. In addition to being dedicated to his many civic and school-related duties, soccer is another passion of Massene's. He has coached kids soccer in both Portland and Lake Oswego for 10 years and plays on a Lake Oswego co-ed team. Says Massene, my approach to football or soccer to us, in which everyone comes together based on a love of the game and a desire for fair play, is much like my love of community and how I intend to approach work as a city councilor. We have to build bridges and walk the distance to talk to one another as people, because at the end of the day, we all want most of the same things. So without further ado, here is a warm Zoom welcome to Massene.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Merci beaucoup, Cheryl.
De rien, de rien.
Ouais. Je vais lire le poème en anglais.
Oh, très bien.
Ou bien français ou anglais. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez?
Je crois en anglais.
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm very honored, to be introduced by my friend. I'm happy to see folks I know most of my friends, and one of my inspiration really is here. So I'm gonna try to do the best. So, okay, so yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna read this poem that's written by Birago Diop. Birago Diop was a Senegalese scholar that was one of the people during colonial time who went to France to study and became a veterinary doctor, but he was also someone who rejected the premises that the African continent didn't have a culture. And so on all his work, it's about African folk tales, African history, and African stories. So it's the breath of the ancestors. And it's a poem that I really love it can sum up what religion is in Senegal, and I will come to that after. And it starts like this: the breath of the ancestors. Listen more often to things than to beings. The voice of the fire, the water that speaks, the voice of the wind, the bush that weeps. This is the ancestors breathing. Those who have died are not gone. They are in the darkness around, the darkness that fades. The dead are not underground. They're in the tree that shivers, the woods that quiver, the water that runs loud in a heart, in a crowd. The dead are not dead. Listen more often to things than to beings. The voice of the fire, the water that speaks, the voice of the wind, the bush that weeps. This is the ancestors breathing. The breath of the ancestors who are not gone, who are not underground, who are not dead. Those who have passed are not gone. They're in a woman's breast, in a child's wailing song, in the coals that won't rest. The dead are not underground. They're in the fire that burns, in the rock that yearns, in the grasses that weep, in the forest. At home when we sleep, the dead are not gone. Listen more often to things than beings. The voice of the fire, the water that speaks, the voice of the wind, the bush that weeps. This is the ancestors breathing. Each day, they renew their pact with us, the pact that binds this breath to our kind. Our dead are not dead. This pact binds us to life, this law that binds us to breathe, to breath, even as we reach our death. In the bed of the river or in its banks is the spirit that gives many thanks. In the rocks that yearns, and the grasses that weep. We find the spirit that keeps in the darkness that around that will fade, the trees that shiver, the woods that quiver in the water that runs, the water that rests are the spirit that bless. They are not dead. They are not, the dead are not gone. They are not dead. They are not underground. Listen more often to things than to beings. Thank you. Biragujo.
Well, wow. Thank you.
So,
Do you have anything you would like to send us to the breakout rooms with? I mean, I was just thinking general reactions, how this speaks to spirituality.
yes, I can send the poem.
Well, sounds like Massene is going to send us a poem, and if we have the technological capability, we'll post that in our chat. And in the meantime, we're going to go into some breakout rooms to just reflect on what Massene just read. And what I think, just generally thinking about what your initial reactions were, you know, how does this speak to your own faith tradition and speak to spirituality? In one sense, it's a sad poem about death, but in another sense, it's very optimistic. So I think that's what we'll do, Massene, is we'll send, Christina will break us up into breakout rooms, and we can reflect more on that beautiful poem you just shared with us, and have
And I
about 15
send
minutes.
it to
Okay.
I send it to
Okay, so you sent it to Christina?
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Okay. Cheryl,
Yeah.
okay, and we'll, you know, if you don't get it in chat, we just heard it read beautifully. So why don't we go ahead and go on into our breakout rooms, Christina, and we'll spend about 15 minutes there.
Yep. Okay. So
Thank you. So just make sure you have someone who's willing to say a couple things in chat or to everybody else when they come back.
okay, so we will come back at 10:40.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. That was we had a great conversation in whatever room number 5. So I'm just going to ask for some feedback. Does someone from room number 1, or does someone want to start? Raise your hand or unmute yourself. Say a few things about what you talked about. Okay, Deborah.
I'll share. We had a great discussion, first getting to know what different faith backgrounds people were from, and the consensus obviously was that was a fabulous, fabulous poem that spoke to us on many levels. So thank you for that. At the end there, we were just discussing just how different cultures honor those who have passed and how that has such an impact on our lives and how we live our lives now and how we approach death in our own thought processes. And that with ancestry and those who have come before us, if we have a connection to that helps us to also have a connection to the earth in terms of thinking moving forward, the next generations have a connection to us and our responsibility to them. So the whole concept of generations and our connections to multiple generations and the power that can have in so many ways, and how that's lacking in so much of our culture here in America today.
Oh, that was great, Deborah. I bet that was a theme in several of the things. I'm going to call on Cindy because she was in my room, and you can talk a little bit about what you said. Yeah.
we did echo the idea of the people in the land and the connection between our ancestors. And one of our group brought up another book that kind of reminded her of how trees are interconnected, and how the more we study them, we understand that they can almost speak to each other. And the land itself is connected, and that through that poem, we as people and the land are one. And you brought up the little story that Councilor Mboup had told you about asking the tree for permission to gather that wood. And Dorothy also kind of got us thinking about how our faith traditions relate to the land, to our idea of family, and to everything around us, which also started some good discussion that we decided we remain hopeful that we can be good stewards and look around us and work for the positive, but that sometimes it's a little disheartening when we see the arguments about what is and what isn't, whether you're talking the environment, race relations, whatever, but trying to find the common ground so that we can move forward. And being in a group like this, sharing our faiths, even if it's not a institutionalized faith, but just having that desire to be and improve our community has value. And that's kind of what that poem was bringing us back to, we thought.
Awesome. Okay, someone else.
I think Willie from our group should say a few words. She had a really wonderful thoughts to share.
Okay, Willie, you're on the spot. Unmute yourself, please.
I guess I came at it from a different space and place. I'm not a nature person in terms of hiking and that kind of thing, but I love trees and the birds and what have you. I think they speak to me, and there's a spiritual side of it for me that I connect to. But our conversations, I will tell you, is as I listened, I thought about social justice and racial justice, and how fortunate we are here, and how sometimes we don't think about, or we think that people in other areas are just disadvantaged, and they should have some of the luxuries maybe that we have, and they want to go back to community where there's a feeling, no matter what it is. And having come from, I won't say rags to riches, but from growing, well, spending my early years up to 7th grade in houses that had no electricity and no running water or what have you, in the United States, in South Carolina. And so I started off there, and eventually this is a place, being in Lake Oswego is a privilege, but I can't forget my past. I can't forget that part of my time in New Jersey, I was in what you call the slum area. I lived in rooming houses. I lived in the projects. So I have that connection there that I don't feel that most people who live in Lake Oswego understand. And so how do we make the connection? It's not so much to going in and just taking people out, because there's another bond, there's a community there. But we need to fight for justice and for getting the good. I said, why we were going to talk about affordable housing, where are they going to place affordable housing? So Cheryl, so you asked me to talk, and then I just go off on a rant. So to guide me up, please, because I'm thinking as we go, each of us, we're stewards, third, but we're also our brother and sister's keepers. And
Yeah,
how do we do that?
That's great. We sort of talked about that as you get the connection. We're having some disconnect between people right now with the whole social justice, as well as what the poem, the generational piece, and then the nature piece. So many layers in that poem, and it was wonderful. But thank you for those thoughts. Anybody else want?
Those were not my group thoughts, though. I
Oh,
want you
okay,
to know.
those are Willie's thoughts.
These are, yeah, those were Willie's
Okay,
thoughts.
okay, Willie's thoughts. Okay. Someone else that wants to just say a few words about what they talked about or their thoughts?
Well,
Okay, Carol, I'm gonna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Esther.
were
No,
calling on
Carol,
people.
Carol was in our group, so go ahead, Esther. Let's hear from your group.
Okay, well, I was in the same group with Deborah, and in addition to talking about the generations and ancestry and how important those connections are, we talked about the connection that we all have to the planet, as Willie said, to each other, the importance of being kind to each other and to the planet so that it's here for future generations and hopefully forever. And so it really evoked a lot of thoughts around sustainability as well as around the connectedness of humanity. Whether we agree or disagree politically, we are still all connected.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you know, if you have some burning thought that you weren't able, that you'd like to share, I invite you to put that in chat, because I'd like to turn this over now to our featured speaker, Massene, to give us some more about his story. So, Massene.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So yes, it's very interesting to hear folks about the poem, and I think, you know, why I shared this poem, because I come from a country that's called, you know, Senegal. As I said, Senegal in Wolof means Sunugal. It means our boat. It means we are in the same boat. And we always say that we have to, you know, and I was doing the parallel with Lake Oswego, that we are in the same lake, and we have to, when we talk about interfaith, I come from a country where you were raised in either as a Muslim or as a Catholic. And they say, you know, Senegal is 90% Muslim, 8% Catholic, 1% animist, and 100% animist. So I don't know if you hear, like that Catholic and Muslim are all animist. And it means like we all, wherever your faith is, you believe in the ancestors. You do alms, you have shrines. I have shrines in my home. We have shrines that we use to celebrate, to do some, you know, like give to the earth, give to nature, or give to other people, whether in forms of food, in terms of, and you know, when we are sick, we go there to back to bathe, you know, we go there to, when we are afraid, we return there. That's our grounding. And so that's where I come from in terms of faith. And also my story and my history, you know, when I left Senegal, I was in my early 30s. I was 30, and it's 22 years ago. And when I arrived here, I've known about America because I studied America, but living it, you know, I saw things, a lot of things that corroborate why I should not never let go of my past, of where I am from. You know, I grew up and thought my father was the richest man on earth, and my mom. And when I start going to see my other friends, I realized that no, my dad is not that rich, because we don't have this guy. And but also I know that I lived in the most loving house that I know among all my friends. You know, I have never been, you know, my father never beat me. My father never pushed me to practice any religion, or like my other friend never asked me to pray or to do anything. You know, he let us grow. And so when I bring the talk about the faith, is that we are all linked. You come here, you listen to a Catholic talk or a Christian, you think, wow, that's what he's telling me. That's what Muslims are telling me about their religion. That if you don't, like, I went to Longview one time and the person came, they were very aggressive if I wanted to be saved. And I told them, I'm already saved. I'm here having fun. I mean, why are you? So it was so funny because, you know what they say, somewhere else I heard that vision and that talk. So I would like just to say that I grew up, like, I know faith is very important. And that's why I love this poem, because this poem considers that we are not dead. And it grounds me, and also it comforts me that my mom is not dead. It was, you know, one of the person who was all my life. And when she died, when she passed away, I had problem with that. You know, I couldn't, and I was old enough. It was 18 years ago. I was here. And when I realized that no, I cannot reckon with, like, I cannot accept that my mom is dead. And a poem like this remind me that she's around. And it brings me, it grounds me about, the poem also shows how, like Willie said, some aspects of life are more important than what we have. And Birago is calling us to say, listen more often to things than beings. Like, you go in Lake Oswego, you walk in the forest, how beautiful and appeasing and calming it is to be in the parks. Like even the new park the city already opened 2 weeks ago, like an Iron Mountain. You go there, you walk, you know that you are crossing generations of miners who are here working, mining the things. You have a connection with yourself. And it's very important when you see the lake, when you everywhere. But what is more important to that is all those things connect to us too, because it's for all of us. And that's you know, it's not out of the subject to talk about social justice, because we are all the same. If I do justice to Cheryl, I'm doing justice to me, because we are all connected. And no matter what the religion you come from, what is more important is not religion, it's faith is more important than religion. Because religion, they think people, you go to a church or a mosque or a synagogue or a temple, the people who are leading the prayers, they're reading words that are not their words. The Bible was not written by the priest, by the pastors, or by the abbé, or by the, no, they're saying it, it's not their words. What is important is what we make of those words and what we do of those words. You know, we have people of different faith committed crimes in the name of those religions because they lack faith. You know, we enslaved Black people in the name of Christianity, and we enslaved other folks in the name of Islam. The Arab came to Africa and enslaved folks. If you go to those countries and see Black folks, they were enslaved in the name. So, and that's when my question, as a Black man and as someone coming from West Africa, I say, why would I believe in this colonizers' religion when I know? Because the only question, and that's something I really lived with and that's when I say, yeah, you know what is important is not the religion, it's the faith that we have, and the faith we have in mankind and in humankind, not mankind, I'm sorry but in humankind. Where we're heading is more important than where we come from is important. It can serve us as a reference. When you drive, you see your, rear view mirror to see the thing, but what's more important is moving forward. And that's when I say, no, I honestly cannot believe in a religion that considered me as a slave and was written in text. In Christianity and in Islam, it's very clear. People don't preach that anymore, but it's what it was. Why was it that even here in America, that the Jesuit had slave that they sold? The last sale they did sale was in 1838 of black folks that saved George Washington that was going bankrupt. Those are facts. And when you see that, as a black man, you say, why? And when the Mormon says that a black cannot go to certain heavens, you just say, and when you see the Muslim, the Arabs say, call the black folks as slaves, you say, man, you know what? The place I come from has a religion that's grounded on earth, that's grounded on my environment, on what I learn. And it's more, and it doesn't mean they're perfect, because they also did their atrocities. There is no history or story that's perfect. You cannot just say we all as human beings, we did things that when you look back, you say, whoa, that's wrong. There's some religion that did sacrifice of human people or as things. But I always say the best thing of me is having this faith that when I look anyone that I come across, it's my sister or my brother. And when I say that, I say, yes, I'm thinking as a Christian, because Jesus said, be your brother's or your sister's keeper, that love thy neighbor. And thy neighbor is the person you walk across, is the person that's next to your office, that is the student that you teach. They're your neighbors, and they ask you to love them. So I say, whoa, I'm thinking like a Christian, because that's and another time you look some as a thing, there are more examples. You say, wow, I'm like a Jewish person, because social justice is something that's grounded in Judaism. And that's maybe what got them in trouble in Nazi Germany, because they were folks who never wanted to be silent in front of injustice. And they were smart because they believe in education. And when we called the Shoah, what was the main thing? It's because most of them, they called them, they are Marxists, but they were intellectuals. And even those who came here, Adorno, Horkheimer, Marcuse, all those folks, they were the most brilliant mind of the 20th century. So you realize, wow, why is it all the people that I reference sometimes, most of them, they're Jewish folks. And you say, wow, then maybe I'm Jewish. And you go, and then you say, wow, there's the prophet of Islam said one time, why would there's certain things that when you see injustice, no matter how there cannot be silent. Even he said, even if your voice shivers, you have to say it. And he said, if you know that when you say it, you are scared to say it in your heart. that this is unjust and I don't want to. And I say, so everywhere you go to the Buddhism, you go to Buddhism, and you see like, the most important part of Buddhism is when they say that people right now are so complicated. Like, because they say the religion we believe, it's like you want to cross a river, instead of sitting on the boat and cross it, you carry the boat to cross the river. And you just say, wow, it's so important, and it makes sense that people are killing each other because my God is better than yours. It's like, is there many gods, or is there one? Or what do you believe in? And then, that's always something I think about, and I have problems sometimes when I talk to folks who are ideological believers, like who are Christian ideologists or Muslim ideologists. They think I am a heretic. And I just tell them, no, the truth of the matter is religion was born in Africa, in Egypt, way before Judaism. Moses is the founder of Islam and Christianity, because both religion comes from the Old Testament. And I told them the truth of the matter was the Pharaoh, they were black. And that's the troubling thing. Why is it that when first we were presenting the Pharaoh, they were not black? And why is it that they're the bad guys in history? When they created religion, if you go to the Book of the Dead, everything you find in modern religion, it's there. So I say to one friend, a Jehovah's Witness, when she came to talk to me, I tell them, I already know this. We created this. I told them, you know what it is? The French, they come to Senegal and Africa in general, they take our cacao, the cacao, the coffee beans, they go and they make chocolate and sell it to us. And we are eating it and say, yeah, but where does it come? It comes from our grain. So I tell them, that's what you are selling me, something that was born here in my continent and from my ancestors. So my religion, your religion is not stronger than mine, because it comes from my beliefs that Moses was adopted by the pharaohs. So what he was preaching was something he got from the pharaohs, and that's my belief. I'm not, I don't, proselytize or discuss it, but I said then, so now what is left? It's faith. And the faith is that believing that first, what we have in common is more important than what divides us. That's the most important, and it's when do you know that? When you listen to the poem, when you listen more to things than beings. Beings, most of the time, they are very controversial. Blue lives matter. When someone say black lives matter, someone blue life, you say, what does it come to do here? Just, and I told folks, the most important thing is, even we ground here, the most important thing is Lake Oswego. Let's close our eyes and see Lake Oswego burning. Are we going to say, oh, I have to wait for a Republican to come help me, or a Democrat, or I'm gonna wait for a Muslim no, we all going to fight. When the ice came, we did not call our gods, we called PGE to help us. That's the truth. Sometimes we have to ground ourselves, and it was element from where? Nature, something we don't respect, but it comes for less than, an hour, and we all start having problems. So that's one thing. What is more important is Lake Oswego. It's our community. If it perish, we all perish. That's one thing. The second thing is, what is more important is not, myself or my family alone, but all of us. What is it? It's a humankind. It's nature. We have to look for, if the trees were treated well, as we treat ourselves. None of you came to this Zoom before without having to clean their face, do their hair. We didn't do it for the trees. And they came get us. They fell on the PGE, failed to trim the trees. They fell on the poles, blow up the substations and everything, because what we think is more important generally is not. Because we center, we are, I don't know if I can say like we are bio-centered, or we are self-centered. We don't look at other folks, that when someone is talking to me, no matter where they come from somewhere, and you have to listen to them, because that's what faith is not, oh, he voted for Donald Trump, I'm not listening to him or her. No, please listen to them, because you don't know why, what you can get from them, what perspective you can get from the guy who voted for Joe Biden, or the guy who's going to the United Church of Christ, or who's going to any place, who's going to a synagogue. Just listen to them. And that if we do that, and only faith can do that, nothing else, because why faith can do that is you have faith, what Terry is telling me, I really don't know what it is. So it's like the world. I don't know where I'm going tomorrow. I cannot tell somebody's dream, because it wasn't me. She has to tell me her dream so that I can say, oh, that's what she's saying. But we have the tendency to tell other people's dream. Oh, Frank is someone who did this and that. No, I have to listen to Frank to know her perspective, and that's faith. Why is it faith? Because it's faith on mankind. I believe that he's a human being. He has a story like mine. And if I don't respect him or his story, I don't respect mine. And that's how it is. And all the work we are doing won't take us anywhere if we don't have that faith. And the most important faith is the faith on mankind, on humankind, on womankind, on anybody that's walking. And the faith is also giving them credit and cutting them some slacks. Like, it's not only myself, like I am because truth, what is truth? In ontology, when we ask what is truth, truth is not one truth. What is true here is wrong somewhere else. What you think is the most important thing in you, you go to someone else, he's saying, no, are you serious? Like, you don't even look at it in what you eat and what other people look at down to your plate and say, what is that? It's the same thing. That if you don't travel, and traveling does not mean physically traveling, you can read, you can watch things, you'll know that the world is very diverse, and that we have to treat each other well, treat our surroundings well, because that's when people say karma is nothing but what we've sown. So you just what my mom used to say, when you were climbing a tree, make sure that where you are landing is not a very hard surface, because you can fall. And and people say most of the world is what you wake up. When you first wake up, you tell other people, oh, you are all naked, get your stuff, but you were before. But because you were naked, instead of helping them do what you did, you just try. And I come from that environment, and I know I would never stop if I continue. But when I came here, what I noticed was that we are lucky. America is lucky. We have so much things. People have so much. You have, like, I had a stroke on February 6th. I was treated very well. My friend who went to me in teachers training school in March at this time last year had the stroke and died because probably he didn't have if you go to the hospital, you are lucky, but how are you going there? That's not, the means are not there. And it doesn't mean, but look, they fare better on coronavirus than we do. So everywhere when you go, but when you look at here, what we have, and sometimes you see the small things that people talk about, you just say, what a waste. And you just want to tell them that there was the French philosopher, Paul Valéry, he said something very important. He said, we civilization, we are mortal, that there is no civilization that will last if you don't cater to it. Where is Rome? Where is Greece? That's where all, the term of people who say they're Western folks, it's Greece. Greece is gone. Even today, it's the last country in Europe. Where is Rome? Where is Egypt? Egypt, the founding, the pyramids, the folks who did, where is it? Where is Rome? Where is the USSR? Even in our modern time, where is Yugoslavia? When you look at things, and America, it's like when we saw the coronavirus coming, a month away, 2 months, we say, oh, it's not gonna come here, it's the Chinese, and it came, Same thing, we have to be better people. We have to, and better people is just, I'm coming back to faith, is if I believe, because there is no religion in essence. The folks who were founders or the head of those religions, Jesus Christ. I always tell people, if you are a union member, your man is Jesus. He was a carpenter. He was working with his things. What happened to him? The Roman came. He didn't want people to authority to come and oppress people. That's why he was put on the cross. That's an example. Any person in all the faith we had, you look at them, they were folks that are not. That's why Gandhi said, I hate Christians. And they say, what, Gandhi, you? He said, because they do everything but what Jesus told them to do. And that's you can say it to the Muslim, you can say it to them, to the Hindus. It's just like, oh, I'm going to the Zoom, I'm gonna wear my yellow jacket or my beautiful things, and then you pull it off. No, our faith are things that come with us. They're things that we carry everywhere. My mom used to tell me, what you have better than your friends, when you take in a shower, you never remove it. And this is something that's not, it's you. And that's where I just call folks that, and I'm glad that you invite me into that we are all interconnected. There is no one, in any way, and I believe it, none of us will make it if we are not kind to one another, if we don't think of others, if we pray. I was talking to
So Massene,
yeah.
how about, is that a good, do you want to finish your thought? Because I would like to open this up for questions to get.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's been some great chat going on.
Yeah.
I think that there's some interest in knowing how your background from Senegal and I mean, you've talked a lot about faith and that, maybe a little bit about how that's going to inform your work as a city council member. Maybe start with that, and then there's some other questions in the chat that Christina will help me monitor.
Yeah, I mean, the work I'm very, like when I say I came from Senegal to here, I was a teacher there. And I came here to teach in a school like I love we all correct everything, and that's one part of the reason why I became a citizen of America. And I said, to show my love to this country, I think I can bring something from my experience in Senegal. And I ran for city council one time, and the second time was successful. And the work I'm doing there, I am more centered on, you know, on really inclusion, diversity, and equity. That because I believe, and that's what I believe, there is nobody in Lake Oswego who's better than another one, no matter how big is your house, how big is your car, or how big is your bank account. We are all the same. We live in the same city. We love our family. That's the most important part. And, you know, I have my children that I love, and my wife more than anything, you know, and what I am doing also, I do it for them. So that's what we're doing. We work also at city council. And if people see me being someone who is the steward of the environmental justice and like the climate, it's because that's something I believe in. It comes from my belief as a child, as a kind of not a religion, but as faith, that we are connected to nature, that our trees, they are more important. I am so happy when I see a tree. Where I come from, there are 5 baobab trees in the house. If you know what a baobab, it's a kind of cure to find a baobab in a house. We have 5 of them. They're hundreds of years old. And when I look at trees, I'm so happy. And I feel when I see people saying, oh, we're gonna cut the trees and do things, I said, I'm not a tree hugger like people say, but I just always think, if they know what I know, they would never try to do that. Because I come from a place when I saw how environmental disaster happened when people destroyed some ecosystem where I used to play when I was a kid, where you went out and see a lion, see this. You go to see a lion in Senegal now, you would go 500 kilometers or maybe in a reserve. And when I was growing up, those were things you just go across your house and you could see some nature. But because we destroy their ecosystem, it's like here when you see the deer and you are so happy. How long are we gonna see them? How long, if we continue our way of just destroying for ourselves because I wanna build a home, or I wanna have this, or a tree is, you know, and that's, you know, Dorothy, I don't know if I am, that's my work at City Hall, and that's where I stand, and people should understand when I take some positions, I'm not sure I am right, but I think that's for me very important that we cater to our environment. And, you know, so that's my work on other issues, you know, what people call, I don't call it, because when you say affordable housing, in Lake Oswego, it has a connotation. I just say, you know, allowing folks to be able to live where they work. That's more, you know, like making sure that our fire marshal can, if they choose to live in Lake Oswego, our teachers who are maybe 60% of the AMI can, you know, I think everybody wants their teacher's kid to be able to have a house. So that's also for me social justice. I also work for, you know, the community policing. I have my ideas that the police should never target folks because they look like me, because they drive a car that's old, or because even whether they're black or white, because generally sometimes they're targeting white or black. Your car is not thinking, oh, he's not from Lagos, you know. That's you know, things that I stand for, and I believe our city workers, they are wonderful folks. They're doing their job, you know, but we live in a society that you cannot, that, you know, when people talk about systemic racism, it's not an attack to anybody. People have to know that. It's the words, it's like Wilkinson, it's an old house. When you buy a old house, you remodel it. We are remodeling our house, our old house. That's America that we all live in. No one was here when they were putting the Jim Crow laws. No one was here when they were redlining. We were not here, none of you. No one survived. But what we can do is to have this faith that Mark believed the same thing as Willie, that Mark Peterson loves his family. Willie loves his family, want Bruce to have a better life than any other child. And if we know that, we will do good. And that's, you know, where I stand. I love everyone. It's the unconditional love is even sometimes selfish to be to love people unconditionally, because, you know, if you love everybody, people will love you back. That's the selfish part of unconditional love, but it's hard also because we cannot love every, you know, it's hard. It takes, you know, courage, and it takes faith to love people who don't like you or people who throw you. It's not easy, but it's a journey that everyone has to make. You go home and say, I know Michelle is not kind to me, but I really wish her well. And but you practice it. You practice, when people say practice kindness, this is what it is. I don't like really, but yeah, oh my God, why even am I saying that? I am not cool, because all of us, we have the double postulation. The human being is that there's a double, that binary thing that I refuse. I don't like binaries views of, but sometimes you have a tendency of bad or tendency of good. You want to do things that you have. It's very important to work on ourselves. That's the most important part.
That's great. Maybe that's, you know, Miss Ann, I could listen to you for another hour, but sadly, we need to wrap up, but maybe we can, you know, this has just been a wonderful session. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective. There's been some great chat that you probably haven't had a chance to read about social justice, interconnectedness, and all sorts of things like that. So you've given us a great framework, your framework of how you're seeing things personally, and then how you're bringing that to the council. And I, for one, and I think I'm speaking for most everybody, I'm so grateful that you're there to do so. So we have just some final announcements and wrap up. Cheryl, we have Earth Day right around the corner in April. And Cheryl, do you want to give us a little update on that?
Well, we're thinking that with Easter and Passover that we might not want, LOSN itself might not want to do a big thing, that we might, this is just a thought, might want to do something more closer to the summer solstice maybe, but Lake Oswego United Church of Christ for sure is doing something the Sunday closest to Earth Day. So they are going to have just a normal Sunday service, but focused on Earth Day, and everyone could come. It's going to be online, either YouTube or Zoom, but I think YouTube. So certainly just go on the LOUCC website and click on the link if you'd like to go to a specific Earth Day service. But
Cheryl, forgive me, Beit Havarim is also participating with LOUCC.
okay.
And it's not going to just be a normal Sunday service. It's going to be more like a gratitude service with some speakers and prayers from both, and focusing on Earth Day. So forgive me for interrupting, but
no, that's great. We'll try to get the link out to you, but you know that you can go directly to either Beit Havarim or LOUCC's websites to get that as well. We, as you know, we're doing these coffees every other month. It's going to be a hard act to follow, Councilor Mboup, but Michelle, Pastor Michelle, could you give us a little preview of what's coming up in May?
Absolutely. Thank you, Massene. We appreciate so much your leadership. I think I'm going to take with me the phrase, people being able to afford where they, to live where they work. How powerful. That will preach a new way to look at language. We just don't realize how language can separate us at times. So I'm proud to bring to our table for May a friend, a colleague, a partner in ministry and teaching and preaching, the Reverend Dana Drumm, who serves as a deacon in our church. She's ordained for the ministry of word and service, where her specific role is to work in the world and to build a connection between the church and the community and the church and the world. She has done a tremendous amount of work in our tribal communities. Her role right now, her title is Strategic Partnership Lead for OHA Public Health Division. Currently, she is the branch director for local public authority in the capacity of vaccines. So she's dealing with all of your vaccines right now. So gracious thank you to my friend who's a part of heading that up. Part of the work that she has forged in the way of partnerships, strategic partnerships, is with Native peoples and their access to healthcare and equity. And so we had asked her, would you bring a tribal person with you? And she said, you know, I really want to educate us first about that before you look that direction. Let me educate you a little bit from my perspective and from a faith perspective. So this is what she shared with me that you can expect. Understanding some of the tribal peoples in Oregon is critical to understanding collaborative understanding the history of tribal people in Oregon is essential to understanding the issues of equity. Equity issues for tribal people are rooted in issues of sovereignty, which is different from inequities and discrimination based on skin color, race, and ethnicity. So she's going to talk about their understanding of themselves as a sovereign nation. Her goal is to provide some perspective on how systems promote injustice, reinforce not having the access to the kinds of things that so many of us take for granted. She says, while the experience of oppression among different groups may appear to be similar, and to some extent they may be, she will share from her own experience what she's learned to understand the differences are with the way tribal folks may experience some of these equity issues. And she'll talk about her own faith journey and how that informs her work in the area of seeking justice and equity for all. So I think you're in for
May 18th. Yeah, May 18th, 10 o'clock. Christina, did you want to talk about the follow-up email that you're going to send out?
Yes, so this session was recorded, so I will email everyone that registered the recording, the poem, any other extra information, information for our next coffee. So please look out for that email. I think that's it. Thank you for joining and participating today.
All right. Well, Massene, just one more big, huge thank you to you. Clap, clap, clap. We are just so grateful that you came to join us. And we look forward to seeing many of you in a couple months. And in the meantime, we always have the Lake Oswego forums. And if you want to get involved, just reach out to us and let us know how you'd like to be involved. So with that, I bid you adieu.